continuing our unit on depression for health and well-being and IB psychology. We're now looking at treatments. We're looking at one major biological treatment, which is SSRIs, and then we'll link this to more holistic, homeopathic, natural remedies of improving our sleep, diet, and exercise. So today we're looking at SSRIs, and students should know what they are and why they affect depression. I've chosen SSRIs, not only are they the most common, quite controversial in the news lately about their effectiveness, but also they link to so many biological topics in paper 1 SAQs. You know, animal models, neurotransmission, chemical messengers, even neuroplasticity. All right, there's a quizzes to review. I don't like the name Waygrand. Anyway, diagrams, can they label them? Here are the answers. All right, and fun hook. You know, some of the treatments we've used. Trepanning. Interesting. Some people are still getting this done. I did see a video on YouTube. It might be taken off now, of a woman, in recent times, getting a hole drilled into her skull. There was the real video of the ice pack lobotomy. It's now been taken off YouTube. Oh, I loved watching kids squirm during that one. If anyone finds it, please, I owe you a chocolate bar. Send the link to me. The first 7 minutes of this doco shows a little bit. It's not as good as the original footage. Shock therapy. Fascinating thing about shock therapy. It works and it's still being used. A clip from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest if you want to show it. And the hook here is that, look, today we're learning what put an end to those therapies. Neurotransmission review. Can they write a brief summary? One thing you might want to do is think of it as a journey, a little story of the neurotransmitter beginning life in the cell body and then traveling down the axon, and it's going on its little journey, and then the big adventure it has in the synapse. They can read page 22, can help. A good little short video summary. And pair problem solving. So we've edited the diagram, taken out the label on SSRIs. Can they look at this and figure, based on the name and this diagram, can they figure out what it's doing? All right, so they can add to the diagram. And then here we simply chalk and talk. Again, another 2-minute video summary. Right, pair problem solve. How would we know if these work? This should be pretty straightforward. And it's kind of where, we can get students to think more intuitively about how a study might be designed, as opposed to, adding in this vocabulary to, independent variable, manipulation, confounding variables, extraneous variables. If they know this intuitively here, coming up, we're going to do a research methods unit, and hopefully, they'll be able to then add those words to this. Animal models, this is really interesting, and sad if you're an animal lover, but kind of fascinating. We use these very primitive, I think, ways of measuring depression in rats. The towel suspension test, the forced swim test. This content here is useful to link back to animal models. And then we've got chalk and talk on SSRIs. Findings a little bit mixed. Interesting study that compares to SSRIs. And the reason why I chose this study and not a simple double-blind experiment with a placebo-controlled experiment is, one, it's actually kind of hard to find a simple placebo-controlled experiment on SSRIs, I think, from Google Scholar. But also, that's so simple to explain that actually this is kind of a little bit more interesting, where we see which one is more effective. And then this is just, coming back to our hook earlier in the lesson. All right, we finished with some notes. And then they can watch this video. I think it's just a good watch, 5 minutes, but then we've also, they should be finishing their SAQ on acculturation. All right, that's the lesson there. And then in the next one, we're going to look at sleep, diet, and exercise.